Welcome, everybody. Just a quick meeting note. We do have an agenda. We're going to stick pretty close to it today, so we have enough time for our kind of round robin at the end, and I'll go ahead and facilitate calling on councils for the start of that. The first thing is any public comment not on the agenda. Hearing none, we'll roll right into our first item with Heidi West.
All right, thank you for having me. So I'm here to invite you all to participate in the Housing and Community Development Survey. And most of you probably have gotten emails from me about that. And also, hopefully everyone has gotten a packet in the mail that has posters and handbills. So I'll give you a little bit more context about what this Housing and Community Development Survey is and why we do it. And I have two computer screens here, so I'm gonna look at the other one. So the Missoula County Grants and Community Resources Department conducts an annual community needs assessment to gauge the community's interest and to identify potential funding priorities for the future. The Housing and Community Development Survey is a needs assessment that is the first step in determining priorities and how we could effectively utilize potential state and federal funding sources. And so these sources include the Community Development Block Grant Program, as well as the Home Investment Partnership Programs, and to ensure that the projects we're applying for meet the community's needs. And so this isn't a comprehensive survey by any means, and it also isn't a statistically valid approach, but we try to gather as much information as possible to bring forward projects that are in line with the community's needs. So I'll share the poster just so you can see it, and then also it has a QR code that will take you to the survey. It takes you the same place as the link that Kyla just dropped into the chat, so you can grab any of those. Here's the poster that you should have received in the mail or in your email. So this survey is the first step of the annual assessment process. And it takes about 10 minutes for people to complete. The questions are a little bit awkward, which we get feedback on that, but they are tailored specifically to the funding sources that we are looking at applying for. And so we need to ask very specific questions in order to get the right kind of information. So there are opportunities for you to add other comments that maybe is an opportunity to provide feedback that isn't directly addressed in the survey. So this, if you scan the QR code, that'll take you to the Missoula County Voice site, as will the link that Kyla just put in the chat. And the survey opened on February 10th, and it'll be open until March 4th. And if anyone has struggles with completing the survey online, get a hold of us. Call our number. Our number is 406-258-4657, or you can email grants@missoulacounty.us, and we will find a way for you to participate in this survey. So if I could ask one thing of you, it's to share this survey far and wide so we can get as many responses as possible. So to date, we've already had 458 people answer the survey, which is pretty awesome. And 39% of the people that have answered the survey so far live in Missoula County. And then the other 61% live obviously also in Missoula County, but within the city limits. And just to compare it a little bit to last year, last year's Housing and Community Development Survey had 570 residents respond. So we're already getting close to that response rate. And of the people that responded last year, so the 170, 256 of those lived in Missoula County, but outside of the city limits. And just to remind everyone what the results of the survey were last year, the top three priorities that were identified across the county, so across both city and county residents, were to improve existing infrastructure, to increase the supply of affordable housing, and to expand infrastructure. And when we isolated the county residents, those were the three priorities that also were the top three results for just county residents. And they also had additional comments related to land preservation, more open space, road repair and paving, public transportation options for rural communities, reducing apartment development, lowering taxes, decreasing housing regulation and government involvement, and probably not surprising to anyone that lives in the county, desires for bridge repairs. And the city's responses differed just slightly from those of the county residents. Their top priorities were to increase the supply of affordable housing. And then the second priority was to improve infrastructure. And then the third was to increase or improve public facilities, which includes things like mental health centers or homeless shelters, those sorts of facilities. And city comments focused more specifically around parking, bike lanes, expanding bus routes, and then also some varied and common suggestions around lowering taxes, increasing the housing supply, regulating things like short-term rentals, prioritizing climate change, affordable childcare, and reducing the homeless population. So we'll see how, I'll stop sharing just so you're not just staring at a screen or at a poster. And so this year, obviously we still have another week and a half of survey response collection. So I hope if you haven't filled it out that you answer the survey and then also share it with anyone and everyone that you think might be interested. Once we have all of those survey responses collected, there is a public meeting. That public meeting this year is going to be on Thursday, March 27th. We're holding it during the commissioners' public meeting, so that normal 2 to 4 p.m. time in the Sophie Moise room at the Missoula County Courthouse. And because it's a regularly scheduled public meeting, it also has the ability to attend virtually, so you can join on a Teams meeting, because I realize not everyone can travel to the courthouse on a Thursday afternoon. And if you can't attend, we also are accepting written comments once we have the report compiled and have identified this year's priorities. Yeah, do you guys have any questions about what the purpose of the survey is or how it fits in with applying for state and federal funds? I'm happy to answer them.
Let's beat next year's numbers.
Yeah, we're getting close.
That's what I meant to say. Yes. Apologies, I'm on my phone, so Kyler, you're gonna have to tell me. I can't see if
I don't see any hands raised at the moment.
Yeah, and just for some context, so community development block grant funding, for example, has housing funding. We currently have a grant that's supporting the veterans housing that's being developed on Broadway and Scott. There's some economic development funding, which usually is in the form of low interest loans to businesses. There also is planning funding. So some of that is being used currently to do some community planning, I believe in the Sealy area, and I'm missing one category. Oh, facilities, public facilities funding. So that's often used for doing wastewater, sewer, water infrastructure upgrades. Most recently, that was used in a resident-owned community, so a trailer park to upgrade their sewer system. So those are the sorts of projects we use this information to apply for.
Okay, I gotta ask, with all the national noise, how do you feel about the likelihood
How do I
of
feel?
receiving these funds?
You know, I'm in the I'm not going to panic category. So what we've we're moving forward like this funding is going to be available. And what we've heard from so we are a middle entity in a lot of cases. So we apply to the state and then we turn around and help a nonprofit or some entity use this funding. And what we've heard from our grants administrators at the state is that at this moment, they have not received any directives to stop funding. They've not received any directives that funding isn't going to be available. And so they are moving forward as is. And then for some of these projects, like the money is already there. It's from past years. So they have it to spend. And as far as they know, it's still there. So
thank you.
Yeah.
But here is the addendum I would add. If any of the folks on this call or in the community feel strongly that the programming that we're talking about is important, there has been enough uncertainty regarding federal funding these days that it certainly does not hurt for you to reach out to your federal elected officials. This is something I discussed with the East Missoula Community Council here recently relative to infrastructure projects. And if you as individuals or other colleagues in the community feel strongly, please do reach out to our congressional delegation.
And
that is such a good reminder. Thank you.
I was going to add, we did have a conversation about delaying this survey because there are so many uncertainties, and we decided to move forward with it anyway, because this will put us in a position of being competitive and being able to move forward, if things stay the same, or, as long as the funding's available, we'll be in a good position to move forward.
Kyla, do you think you'd be able to put contact information for our delegation in the chat just to help people be able to access things more quickly?
Yeah, I can make sure that that gets to everybody.
Sorry, not necessarily in the chat, or you can put it in the chat, but yeah, when you do the recap.
Yep, I'll make sure it's in the recap.
Thank you. Okay, is this our time to welcome Natalie?
I think so. Here. No other questions for Heidi. So yeah.
Okay. And I can't see her. Oh, there she is. Okay, welcome.
Oh, yep, I'll get the light out. Hi, everybody. Thank you very much for having me. This is my first all community meeting, so I'm still very much learning. I am in just my second month. I think I've been on the job for about 6 weeks as the brand new Montana State University Extension Agent for Missoula County, covering agriculture, livestock, and community vitality. So that is why I'm here. From what I understand, my job is to, promote agriculture where I can in all of the cracks and crevices of our county. And so I look forward to getting to know more of you, the leaders, the movers and shakers in different parts of our county. Just a little bit about me. I grew up in Stevensville, went to school at Montana State University for undergrad, and then went to the West Coast for about 12 years to get my career jump started. Most of my work has been with agricultural co-ops. And I was lucky enough to move back here to Missoula 5 years ago, right before the pandemic. And yeah, really, really excited to explore this extension adventure. I love extension. I've always wanted an extension job, and so I'm excited to explore everything that it entails.
Have you had a chance to attend any community council meetings? I guess you've only
I have
had
not.
a chance to do one.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm on the board of the Open Lands Committee, or sorry, not board. I'm on the Open Lands Advisory Committee.
Oh, as a member, or are you staffing it? Sorry, I got confused.
Oh, not staffing, just a member.
Okay, wonderful.
Yep, I've been on that for just a few months.
And Natalie, is it true that livestock is really a part of your expertise?
It is, yeah. Working for ag co-ops, I was an equine and other livestock nutrition, but mostly equine. That's definitely my passion. And I went back to school, got a master's degree in crop and soil science. So the forage industry is another big passion point of mine.
Great.
But I've worked with all livestock through my nutrition consulting and around the country, and look forward to doing it more
So what,
locally.
so what sort of issues should people feel comfortable about reaching out to you about?
Ooh, that's a great question. Right now, I am digging deep into animal emergency plans for individual farms. And we actually have a meeting on Friday at our building at the Missoula County Department of Ecology and Extension. I'm hosting several members of the community, including the Office of Emergency Management with Nick Holloway. I've got members of the community. I've got a veterinarian from the Montana Department of Livestock. We're all getting together, putting our heads together about emergency planning for small farms, especially animal farms. We understand that one of the biggest reasons people don't evacuate is because of their animals. And so if we can improve the planning around that, the accessibility of some of our Missoula County resources, I think we could all be a little bit safer. So that's my first big project right now that I'm really excited about, hoping to produce some resources and have that on our MissoulaEduplace.org website here in the next few months.
Cool.
So
Do
then
you
we
overlap?
just heard, oh, sorry, go ahead, Josh.
Thanks. Do you overlap with FFA folks or
You know, Tom
4-H?
Andres
4-H
with
is what I was.
FFA,
Yeah.
you know, that's a great question. Campbell Barrett does a fabulous job with
Yeah.
4-H and has been in that realm for a long, long time. So I think we'll overlap a little bit, you know, and the animal health side, of course. Both of them are going to be at our meeting on Friday, our
Great.
animal emergency planning meeting. So yeah,
Great.
they really have a finger on the pulse of, you know, the small animal and livestock industry here in Missoula County and surrounding areas. So yeah, they're both great resources. I'm really interested in the forage industry too. I'm going to be I'm exploring options for a directory or just ways to help our local hay growing communities and more broadly across Western Montana too, whether that be a directory or educational events or, you know, helping them market their products more efficiently. I have some ideas that are sprouting and growing around that too.
Great.
Anything about helping folks with their ornamental plants and the toxicity and dying elk calves? We just heard that on the news earlier this evening.
Oh dear, I don't.
Oh, so apparently in the Bitterroot there was a case where there's 4 elk calves have been found dead because of they got into some toxic ornamental plants that either have escaped or they got into someone's yard. I didn't know if there's, and I don't remember the name of the plant, but things to think about.
It could be quite a few of them. Yeah. There's a lot of ornamental plants that are toxic to ruminants. But yeah, beyond forage crops, plants are not my forte. So I'm really happy that we have a lot of great green thumbs in our office that I'm sure I'll be learning a lot from.
You guys have a great building.
Yes, it was my first comment. Day one was how very lucky to have a nice office overlooking the Rocky Mountain Gardens. It's really beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of great things going on in our office too. It's really inspiring.
I see Stephanie online has a question or her hand raised.
I was just going to ask about bird flu and small chicken people and what you've heard about it.
Ooh, yeah, I think bird flu is going to come up quite a bit, just even in our discussion about emergency planning for animals, because if we allow people to move their pet birds around in an emergency type situation, that could be a big vector for transferring that bird flu. And it's a really big problem in our area. I know it's in our wildlife, in domestic chickens as well. So yeah, that's going to be a topic of conversation on Friday, is what do we do about the pet chickens? So they're family members too, but yeah, a really big part of biosecurity.
How prevalent is it? Is it fairly prevalent in Missoula?
Ooh, as far as like relative to other parts of the country, I'm not sure. That would be a great question for the Montana Department of Livestock. And I'm excited to have actually 2 of their veterinarians coming to our Friday meeting too. And the biosecurity part will be obviously a really big part of this emergency planning section, but not the whole part. You know, I think we can have, I'm hoping to actually on that topic, end of March, one of the veterinarians from Montana Department of Livestock is going to be presenting at our building through the Healthy Acres event. Maybe some of you guys have been to a Healthy Acres educational event. I know the Weed District has been putting it on for quite some time. And this year, I joined up with Stephanie to talk about maybe some topics around how climate change is changing changing the plants, changing the animals' response to disease, etc. So we're going to have a veterinarian come and talk about some of the new diseases that we're seeing more and more, maybe not new, but just new to our area. They're becoming more prevalent in our livestock these days. So if you're really interested in that sort of biosecurity, stay tuned. Look for that Healthy Acres educational event. It's going to be an after work hours, end of March. We're going to be talking more about biosecurity.
Thanks for that. Looks like we have one more hand up. Lisa?
I think you're muted, Lisa.
There we go. There we go. It's the other button. I wanted to ask about how you might be able to come to the East Missoula Community Council and talk about our deer, turkey, elk on the backside of Mount Jumbo and that whole urban interface kind of, you know, I've got a flock of 30 turkeys in my backyard. So things like that. And
are they pests, or are they nice to look at?
We love them. Don't understand a bird that big, but they're indoors. Look through the window. But as we have bears, and I'm on the backside of Mount Jumbo, and we have bears in the neighborhood, and just any public assistance you could present at a community council meeting that would be relevant for East Missoula community members to know how to live well with all the deer and elk and turkeys and bears that are out here.
Oh, wow. That's an interesting question. I'll have to dig into that. I know, just ironically, something came across my inbox today. I want to say MSU Extension is putting it on. There is an entire month of educational webinars about dealing with wildlife, but it was mostly as pests. But deer were listed in there, along with like ground squirrels and voles and moles and that sort of thing. So I can send you that information. Maybe it won't be as specific as you'd like to your community, but I know there are resources out there that MSU Extension is putting out.
Okay. I will look at it. Thank you. I wrote that down.
Yeah. I'll send that link to Haley.
Yeah.
If I find it.
She sends out a whole follow-up after, so we'll get it.
Oh, great. Okay. Yeah, let me.
Dave?
Yeah, Lisa, if you've not already, I think what you've described is a great set of discussion points for fish, wildlife, and parks, and that's probably more in the wheelhouse of FWP than Missoula County or even Extension. So consider that for a future speaker also.
Yeah, the fun but very frightening thing about this job is that it can be anything that I want it to be. Missoula County has not had a really strong livestock and agriculture agent for several decades, is what I understand. And so with that, there isn't a set plan that I get to step into and follow. I get to make it my own, which I think is really, really exciting. So I get to go in the directions that I find interesting. But there is a lot of possibilities out there, and that's why I'm here on these sorts of meetings, trying to figure out, what the communities do want. Hopefully this year I'll be putting out a survey, not unlike what you guys have going on with the housing survey, to assess needs on the ag and livestock front. Certainly equine is my life's passion, and there's a lot of new people moving into our county and surrounding areas. They've watched Yellowstone or always dreamt of being in Montana, and they're coming here and having animals for the first time. And right now, that's going to be my focus is, how do we serve them? How do we make them lighter on the land, not overgraze or overstock? How do we have healthy animals for food production? And those are some things I'm thinking a lot about right now. I'm going to start putting together a video series. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, to be able to produce one a month on, we're going to call it light on the land, like how to have animals more efficiently and on small acreage, especially. Right now I'm working on how do we, heat water tanks efficiently. And then we're going to be doing a lot with Missoula Conservation District, some videos on manure management, how to compost better, what to do with your manure so it doesn't just pile up or become a, environmental hazard. We're going to be talking about, fertilizers and weed control, and hopefully get that out in a vlog series. But again, really
Well, that's
focusing
super
on that
exciting.
small acreage. Somebody not, of course there's a lot of people new to our area, but I think there's a demographic too that maybe still needs some education, an older demographic, older to the county that have more education about good land use practices, not just for the aesthetics of our communities, but also soil health and plant health and weed prevention and whatnot.
Dave? I think Commissioner Strohmeyer's hand is still up, or maybe it's not.
It's back down. I think we have.
Sorry.
I do not see it.
Okay, sorry. Anything else, Natalie?
No, I think I've already overdone my time. I'm sorry I didn't know exactly how to prepare for tonight, but just wanted to say hello.
So
And
glad you're here.
Natalie, just
Yeah.
one last thing. All this is super interesting. Could you put your contact info in the chat, so if these folks want to reach out to you or pass
yes.
it on to people they work with, they can?
Yes, and especially again, right now I'm really thinking the most about this animal emergency preparedness plan. So if any of you have strong interest or experience in emergency planning for communities, I am all ears and open. We have this really amazing work group on Friday that I think is going to be really powerful. I'm excited to see what comes of that meeting, but we'll start producing some resources for people on our MissoulaEduPlace.org website very soon on that.
Excellent. Okay. On to Katie Foster.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. As Natalie mentioned, I'm in the same boat as her. This is actually my first all community council meeting as well. A little bit about me. I am the climate resiliency educator with the Home Upgrade Hub. I'll share my screen. I actually prepared a few slides. Okay. Can everyone see my slide deck? If someone could give me a yes, I can see it, because I can no longer see you all.
You're good, Callie. Okay,
perfect. So this is our nice new logo. As I mentioned, my name's Callie Foster. I'm the climate resiliency educator. I am also in the same office as Natalie at the with the Department of Ecology and Extension on the fairgrounds. This week we're launching the Home Upgrade Hub. This is a new initiative in our office. A little bit about us. Our tagline is Missoula County's resource for healthy and efficient homes. We're really trying to provide resources and act as a one-stop shop where any county resident can come and access information and resources, mainly to guide them through electrification, home energy efficiency retrofits, and coming soon, more information about resilient landscaping design. We're really trying to approach this with a tailored approach, because we know that everyone's home is different. You have your, dealing with your own unique circumstances with your home. So we're really trying to figure out a way to have more of like a, tailored and not so like one size fits all approach. Our goals are mainly to provide customized whole home prescriptions for folks so they can navigate all of the nuances of planning and implementing home retrofits. We're also offering educational opportunities. Our first one is actually tomorrow evening. We're launching the Home Upgrade Hub, and we're going to give a bit of a crash course about the home retrofit process and what variables to be thinking of. And really, and our last goal is to provide science-based information and resources. I think another goal of ours is to provide unbiased information as well, because we know that, our utility providers, manufacturers, and for-profit businesses are really trying to sell you on products. Meanwhile, we're trying to not so much sell you on anything, but to just provide the information of what you can do in your own space to make yourself more comfortable, as well as save money. We have partnered with quite a few folks to get this up off the ground. These are our partners throughout the community that we have spoken to and received information, and they've helped us understand what the need is and existing resources, so we can kind of band together to all work towards these common goals. So offered services right now, as we're standing up the Home Upgrade Hub, we're offering DIY home assessment resources. We know that home assessments and energy audits are kind of hard to come by. There's a huge gap in the workforce with energy auditing in Montana, not just Missoula. So we're trying to kind of fill that gap by providing resources for folks to assess their homes themselves. We also provide home-specific retrofit project planning, as well as guidance on how to access and apply for rebates, whether that's national manufacturer or just local rebates, tax credits, and other incentives. Public programming opportunities, as I mentioned, and then coming soon, we are engaging contractors and installers right now in the hopes that we can put together an engaged contractors list for folks to, almost like a directory, find folks that are doing work, that do good quality work. So you're not just having to kind of float out there in the ether of wondering who you can contact and who has the expertise to help you install appliances, those sorts of things. We're hoping to also provide contractor bid walk resources and guidance, because I know from my own experience, it was a little daunting to go through the bid walk with my solar panels or, remodeling or retrofits that I've done in my own home. And we imagine that other folks kind of come up against those same challenges. And then coming soon is the Resilient Landscaping Resources, really with a focus on, defensible space for folks that live out in the county. And then for the more urban residents, we'd really like to tackle the heat island effect to help bring down, those extremely hot days and how to kind of plan your landscaping to provide you some, shade, as well as some warming or cooling effects in your home. So I'm going to go run through a few slides of like why planning a retrofit is valuable in our community. Something that we know right now is that our housing stock, 53% of our houses in the county were built before 1980. 24% was built between 1980 and 1999. And the remaining 23% was built after 2000. So these folks over here built before 1980, as well as this 24% built between 1980 and 1999. These homes are most likely going to need updated appliances. We also know that houses settle, insulation settles in their homes. So it's not just kind of when the house was built, it's airtight, things settle, houses become drafty and leaky. Another reason why it's worth it is because 23% of Missoula's emissions come from methane gas use in buildings. And we can really reduce those emissions by electrifying not only, our, like municipal buildings, but also our homes. And an interesting fact about methane is that it is what is mostly in natural gas. And methane produces a byproduct of nitrogen dioxide and can cause some really adverse health effects for folks, especially vulnerable populations. With children, they have growing lungs, exposure to methane, detrimental for them. It also increases inflammation in your airways. And it can also, lead to increased asthma attacks for those that have asthma. I also was thinking about a statistic I saw the other day that homes that have gas stoves, sorry, my dog is here with me and he thinks because I'm talking it means it's playtime. So if you hear him whining, I apologize, or barking. He's pretty needy.
Callie,
but
I think there's
yes.
I don't know if anyone else is hearing that. It seems like there's some interference with.
Oh, okay. I will turn off my AirPods then. Is that better?
You might also just turn off your camera if you have limited bandwidth there.
Is that better?
No.
Much worse.
It's worse.
Is that better?
There we go. I think so. Yeah.
That sounds pretty good.
Oh, okay. Well, put my AirPods back in. Okay. I'll go back into present mode. I don't know if anyone heard me, but I apologize because my dog is here and he thinks because I'm talking, it means it's playtime. I apologize. What I was saying was I saw an interesting statistic the other day that said that homes that have gas stoves typically have 50 to 400% more nitrogen dioxide in their homes compared to electric stoves. And that is due to like the duration that you're using your gas stove. But typically homes that have gas stoves actually have poorer air quality than what they regulate for outdoor air quality. So something to keep in mind of why planning a retrofit is worth it. Another thing, getting into like more of the detailed why it would be worth it for a person to do it versus like the entire community, is that it does improve indoor air quality. It usually results in savings on heating and cooling cost and provides increased comforts for households. I put my contact information here. I work with a fellow named Corey Dads. And so we are the main folks that are running the Home Upgrade Hub. And you can contact us by calling or emailing us. And you can also find resources and event information on our website, the MissoulaEDUplace.org. Another thing, something I wanted to do here, if we have time, is we really like to hear from the folks that are not in, the city of Missoula, since those are typically the people that we are the most accessible to. But we'd really like to find space and time and opportunities to get out into other communities across the county. And we're wondering, what offerings would benefit your community? How can you best reach folks in your community to advertise that, or how could we best reach folks in your community? And I gave a couple examples of hosting a public event, providing virtual programming, or really anything else, because we're here not to just serve the folks that are in Missoula City, but in the entire county. And then lastly, I wanted to put this out there. So tomorrow is our launch event, but I thought maybe that was just too big of an ask to see if you could get people to that. But we are planning a more in-depth, planning a home retro fit workshop series. And that's going to take place every Thursday in March, starting March 6th through the 27th. It's an evening offering from 5:30 to 7 p.m. The first session, we're really going to focus on how to assess and analyze your home energy use. Session 2 will be, retrofit planning basics. The third one will really focus on budgeting and what options are out there for financing, as well as how do you access, those incentives. Session 4 is more focused on the low-hanging fruit of your home's building envelope, and thinking about air sealing, ventilation, as well as insulation. And then we're really going to encourage folks to make one-on-one appointments with us so we can get into the nitty-gritty. All of our offerings are free, but registration is encouraged. And for the series, we have capped it at 25 due to space in our buildings. So I'll leave this one up here. And if anyone wants me to go back to our contact information, I'd be happy to do that as well. And I'm also available to answer any questions that you have to the best of my abilities.
Thank you so much. And yeah, Kyla, again, you're going to have to help. I don't see anyone, but oh, Stephanie's hand is up.
Yep.
So I just wanted to say I was glad to see that you're talking to contractors, because that is certainly a stumbling block for a lot of people that want to do any sort of home repairs or home improvements, is our availability of contractors and availability of good contractors. So I was happy to see that.
Thank you, Stephanie. Yeah, Corey is mostly heading that up because he has more experience in the contractor space, but I know he has been in communication with quite a few, and we are hopeful that not only we can create that engaged contractor list, but we could also potentially partner with other organizations to provide trainings to contractors that are not so familiar with more energy efficient appliances and how to install and also plan for the installation of them. Because I think some contractors, they just, they know what they know and they know what they're used to. So we would also like to expand the workforce in the county as well. Lisa, I see your hand is up.
I was just going to mention that one of your slides was the number of homes that were constructed from the 50s and up. And I think that's a good number of East Missoula. We've got some traditionally older neighborhoods and older homes and older residents that would definitely need that kind of information and assistance to upgrade their homes and have access to contractors and tax incentives and rebates and just how to get a senior started on allowing them to live in home longer. Things like that would be very interesting for East Missoula residents. So if we can, Sue Holden, our chairperson, through our Facebook page, through East Missoula United, or at our community council meetings, I think that'd be something East Missoula would be very interested in.
Great. Yeah. And I'd be happy to come to you, you know, so folks don't have to come to our building. We would love to branch out and kind of meet people where they're at. And we're also hoping in the future that Corey and I can get certain certifications so we can also eventually come into people's homes to kind of do the home assessment for them, because as of right now, we're kind of limited in our capacity for that. And so we're asking folks to kind of assess their own home in the meantime, bring us what they have found, and then we'll walk them through how to analyze it. And we really, now we're starting with kind of a limited approach in the hopes that you know, the county and the residents will really influence how we expand our offerings as well.
Okay, thank you so much.
Of course, and I'd be happy to send Kyla more information to kind of disseminate across this group as well.
Great, thank you. And I'm sorry I called you Kaylee before. Callie.
Totally fine. My parents kind of set me up for that by naming me Callie with a Y. But yeah, as long as I know you're talking to me, you can call me anything. I once worked for a grocery store, and the manager there called me Kayla for about 6 months, and I answered to it. So I'm very much used to it. No worries.
Great. Okay, on to Chet.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. So this is a topic that I think Jerry Dellis had asked about last year, and I don't think we have Jerry on tonight, which is a bummer. We'll have to pass this information on to her later. But we have had a number of different organizational changes happening over the last few years, and she was asking about the org chart and who was sort of in charge of various things. There's some familiar programs that are still part of our org chart. There's some new things that have been added. And I thought it was a great question, but we weren't quite to the point of having all of the boxes filled, so to speak, on our org chart. So we're back now to hopefully do that, because we are prepared to give you some better details. And then in addition to that, as Kyla and I were working on this, we started digging up some of the history, and we thought, well, it'd probably be helpful to actually offer a little bit more than just an org chart and to actually help the progression over time of where we've been organizationally. And at least I'll speak for me, I wasn't here for most of that. You'll see that in the dates, but hopefully connect some of maybe how you all have connected to the county in the past to where we are today. So this is the first time that we've shared some of this. We're hoping to do more of it, even internally throughout the county, as we've had these changes, just to give folks a sense of what we're up to and who's part of Lands and Communities. So as you have questions, or if there's something that doesn't make sense in this presentation, make sure that you jot that down and then let us know at the end, because we'll be happy to provide some additional information or hopefully better explain what we're up to. So with that, I'm going to jump into a quick presentation here. All right, hopefully you can see that. Are you seeing a Lands and Communities page with a bunch of photos?
Yep, we're good.
Perfect. All right, believe it or not, each of those 7 photos around the edge represent every one of your community council communities. So you can all take a guess. Some are probably easier to guess than others, but it was kind of a fun exercise to run through a little bit of the images that could be attributed to each of your communities there. So again, like I said, before we dive into the org chart, I thought it would be helpful just to do a little bit of a history session. And let me see, I'm gonna click into this. All right. Hopefully we'll be in good shape now. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. All right. Hang on. Don't get dizzy. Try this again. All right. So a little bit of history. And I'm going to start back in 1996. So this isn't obviously covering everything, but back in at that time, that was the latest interlocal between the city and the county to set up what was then the Consolidated Office of Planning and Grants. So a lot of the pieces that we've worked with and still have are kind of remnants of back then. From 1996 on until 2004, really, everything kind of continued to operate under that consolidated office. In 2004, though, the county commissioners voted to terminate that interlocal. And then in 2005, they had an organization and management study to look at maybe a better setup, a better way of organizing some of the county's work. And that was really largely based on trying to meet more of the needs of the rural communities out there. And in fact, in that organization and management study, it talks about this notion that the BCC at the time were really frustrated about the rural areas not getting sort of the bang for the buck with how things were set up. So that organizational and management study led to what was then kind of more of a county-focused Office of Planning and Grants. And that happened in 2005 following that study. And in 2005-06, already there was a decision to create a new department and move it even out of that Office of Planning and Grants, and that was Rural Initiatives. So they separated from OPG, the Office of Planning and Grants, and they brought along the long-range planning, codes, open lands, and then there was a parks program at that time in the BCC office, and that all got folded into the Rural Initiatives Department. The current planning function and then the grants function stayed with that Office of Planning and Grants. And again, the BCC really was creating this because there was a really heightened attention to needing to serve those rural needs out in the community. At the same time, you'll notice that 4 of the community councils were created during this time period from 2006 to 2008. And so there was a lot of this engagement, but even I thought you all would appreciate seeing that sort of that was what led to the creation of a lot of the community councils. So in 2006, you've got Rural Initiatives, and then things kind of made their way along pretty well until about 2012. And at that time, Rural Initiatives transitioned and became Community and Planning Services, or CAPS, which probably a lot of you are familiar with that name. And CAPS is what preceded Lands and Communities. And so at that time, they brought the current planning piece from the Office of Planning and Grants, and they added that to Rural Initiatives, and that began CAPS. And grants and community programs still stayed outside of CAPS. They then became a city-county department. So there were a few little changes that occurred beyond 2012. So you've got Community and Planning Services, or CAPS. In 2015, Parks, Trails, and Open Lands, which I know a lot of you are familiar with that program, they increased their staff capacity, and then they also merged the open lands piece. So it was just Parks and Trails. They merged the open lands piece, and then the Parks, Trails, and Open Lands program formed with a little bit more staff capacity. And then in 2017, the grant side that was still sort of a city-county program, that department was dissolved, and then the grants and community programs portion of at least that county function was folded into CAPS as well. And at that same time, we got the first sustainability position added to CAPS, and that was what was sort of the initial concept behind what today is the Climate Action Program. So those changes all kind of continued to happen. And then it led us to today and the progress from 2017 on until now. And we added Planning, Development, and Sustainability and Ecology and Extension as 2 new departments. We transitioned away from CAPS and created a new structure called Lands and Communities, and it started with those 2 departments. And at that time, our current commission was really focused on the need to sort of reflect on changes that have happened over the years, mostly from where we were with our CAPS organizational structure to where we were needing to be today in order to respond to sort of the dynamic needs of the county, the additional and new demands, and then also enhance our efficiency and collaboration. And then that would lead to hopefully some improved public service and support to staff that were doing that work. So in 2022, we formed Lands and Communities with, again, those 2 new departments. And then we really kind of completed that in 2024, where we added the second 2 departments, Land, Culture, and Recreation, and Grants and Community Resources. So there's the quick history lesson. Hopefully that was of some interest to you all. Uh-oh, my presentation is not functioning very well. Either that, my memory on what button to hit isn't. So lands and communities, the best way to describe this is sort of an umbrella. And below this umbrella are 4 departments, and within the departments are really where the work occurs. Each of those departments has a director, and they have then the programs below them, below those departments. And so this will break down for you in terms of how you might engage with the county. Where are these various functions of the county located organizationally? So under lands, culture, and recreation, we have the Larchmont Golf Course, the fairgrounds, Marshall Mountain, and then the parks, trails, recreation, and open lands. So all of the parks, trails, and open lands work. And we're going through some adjustments still as we get all of these departments up and running. So you might see some titles change on the PTOL side, the parks, trails, and open lands. But by and large, that's kind of the same function still in the same office. Ecology and Extension was the new addition under the initial creation of Lands and Communities, and they've got kind of the 4 primary program areas: Healthy Acres, Healthy Communities Foundation, Aquatic Invasive Species District, Lolo Mosquito, and Extension. We might be missing one in there too. I feel like maybe we're one short. And then Planning, Development, and Sustainability is the Planning Division and the Climate Action Division. Under Planning, we've got Long Range Planning and Implementation, and then we also have the Current Planning and Permitting. And then the most recent creation of our department is, the last, I guess, of this reorganization, is Grants and Community Resources. And under that new structure, we've got the Grants Division and the Community Resources Division, which is federal and state grants, and then we've also got county funds. So under this umbrella of lands and communities, really the focus on how we do our day-to-day work is all around convening and collaboration, and then kind of exploring how we do the work that we do and how we tackle challenges. How do we take the interest that the commission might have? How do we take the feedback that we get from the public? How do we adapt the ways in which we provide service? Hopefully that umbrella provides a better opportunity for those departments to work together and also to use sort of that leadership group as a sounding board, as a troubleshooting board, as thought partners, et cetera. So that's kind of the functional aspect of how we see lands and communities supporting each of these 4 departments. We talked with our staff about the values that they really think are important to the work that they do. And this is across all of those departments. I thought you might be interested in just hearing a little bit about this in terms of why we do what we do. The exercise was really interesting. It started by just describing what we do, and that seemed pretty boring. As soon as we talked about why we do what we do, people were using words like you see there that had a lot more meaning, and it conveyed, I think, a lot more of the service spirit and the interests and the motivations that staff bring to the table. But you'll see the bolder words there, or the larger words, are things that occurred more frequently. So connection, sustainability, meaningful engagement and work with communities. Community, you see, is up there. Stewardship, engagement, all of those things really are kind of what drives the staff in the work that they do across all of those departments. So it didn't matter what they were doing. Each one of those kind of professional areas are different, but these are the words that, for the most part, everybody kind of coalesced around and agreed upon. So that gives you kind of a sense of where we're at and why we do what we do. And now to get down to kind of more the nuts and bolts, this is our org chart, and these are the directors with some photos there. If you haven't met those directors, any of them I know would be happy to talk to you about work that they do. I know you've probably seen many of them or worked with many of them on other projects in the past. To some degree, their jobs are fairly similar to what they've done in the past, just with some expansion and some additional roles and responsibilities. But at the top there, you've got me as the Chief Lands and Communities Officer, and Kyla, who you know from these meetings, but also probably working with her out of our office on any number of other projects or topics. She leads sort of the office administration and coordination amongst our departments. She's got a couple of administrative assistants that work out of our office, and she is our primary liaison with community councils. So you've probably talked with her about any number of things: bylaws, agenda topics, questions that you might have as council members. I can't say enough great things about how Kyla keeps probably all of us in line. I know she certainly works hard to keep me in line. Probably on some days she say with some limited success, but that's okay. And then our 4 departments there. So Lands, Culture, and Recreation Department, we've got Randy Arnold as our director, Bryce Christians with Ecology and Extension Department, Karen Hughes with Planning, Development, and Sustainability, and then Melissa Gordon with Grants and Community Resources. And that sums up kind of a whirlwind tour. So I didn't want to take too much of your time, but hopefully that was enough to give you a sense of what we've been doing with this reorganization. Hopefully it makes a little bit more sense in terms of what all is living underneath that umbrella and the program areas that that we have our directors engaged in and working with you on projects and things out there in your communities. I don't have a lot of detail right now with the org charts of each of those departments. I know that's probably something you might be interested in, and we can certainly follow up with that later. And we'll also have our annual report coming up here in the next couple of months. So look forward to more details around the work that each of them are doing. We'll bring that presentation to you at all community council meetings. So with that, happy to answer any questions. And again, if there's something that was confusing or I went through too quickly, please just let me know and I'll be happy to go back and answer. It's quiet, everybody's asleep. Did I put you all to sleep?
That is just groups going on. I mean, all that movement.
Yeah. Stephanie, let's start with you. Now I've got some hands coming up.
So I was just going to say that impressive amount of change. And just, can you share this content with Kyla so that we can see it again and kind of walk through it again?
Yeah, you bet. Okay. We'll have to look at kind of what format we can most easily get this to you. It's an online sort of tool we were using, but I know there's ways to either get it into PDFs or make a quick video kind of a thing. We'll get it to you in a way that you can easily kind of watch or thumb through. Yep, happy to do that.
Or a link. A link is good too.
Okay, yeah. Good questions. I saw a couple other hands go up, but then I think maybe they got down. Tom.
So just a quick question. We're obviously suffering from grants being suspended, even ones from local or state organizations, but that are ultimately federally funded. Well, in fact, I think Blackfoot Challenge might have had 800,000 frozen today. Are you seeing anything? Like, we've got a number of grants, both, not we, the council, but the town. We've got a few micro grants and I think 1 or 2 impact grants. Would they be impacted at all?
No, those grants that you're talking about, Tom, are ones that are funded by the county. Oh, and Heidi's jumping on because she's the pro at these subjects. But those funds are not tied to federal funds, so they're going to be a little bit different. But Heidi, go ahead and weigh in.
Yeah, I was just going to say they're from county general funds. And so we're actually still accepting impact grant applications through the end of the month. And then micro grant applications also through the end of this month and then going forward as long as we have funding. So that is moving forward like normal. So.
Great, thanks.
Good question, Tom. Anybody else? All right, well, you can, you know where to find Kyla, and she's good at finding me. And so feel free to reach out with any questions you have, and anything that's intriguing or of interest to you there, you want some more information, let us know. We'll be happy to get it to you, and we'll make sure we get this information passed along as well. Thanks.
Great. Thanks so much, Chet. And now I see it's 7:33, but 7:34. We'll cruise through the round robin.
Sure. John looks like he just left. I don't see anyone else on from Bonner. Unless nope, I don't see anyone else on from Bonner. So Clinton, any updates from you, Bonnie or Chris?
Hi, this is Chris Handley. I'm speaking tonight. But let's see, in January, we had Missoula Aging Services come out and speak mainly about the driver program. And there was a lot of discussion about that, about all sorts of topics. It had to do with aging. And also Heidi came out with her presentation on rural grants, which was thorough, informative, and she always does a great job. We had 13 community members that night attend, which was a really good turnout for a cold January night. And then tomorrow is our February meeting, and Shane Stack from Public Works and Nick Zanitos of Parks, Trails, and Open Lands is coming out to speak at our meeting. That is all.
Thanks, Chris. East Missoula. Lisa, Sue, Stephanie.
This is Sue. We've also had a couple of busy months. I just got notification that the East Missoula Community Garden, along with Garden City Harvest, they are already planning for the grand opening on May 3rd at 10:30 in the morning. So I'm not sure if any of the commissioners will be there as well, but that's exciting since that's been in the works for a year and a half, 2 years now.
Yeah, I think Josh will be attending.
Yeah, so that's really exciting.
I'll be there.
Awesome. We just, thanks to Stephanie, got a brand new YouTube channel set up to where we are going to be posting our monthly meetings. And the February meeting is already out there. And so hopefully we'll have the link out on our Facebook page yet here in a little bit. So that's exciting that we're going to be able to have our community council meetings on YouTube. And Kyla, I've still got it on my priority list of things to do to get a hold of you about the minutes and whatnot. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. But we're also active in getting people notified about the fire levy survey and the housing survey that's out there. And we were fortunate enough to have Commissioner Strohmeyer and Karen Hughes at our meeting last week in regards to zoning and annexation questions. So that was great to have them there and answer on those questions. So Stephanie or Lisa, do you have anything to add?
I was just going to say the reason that we had to get the YouTube channel up and running, Dave, is because there were a lot of people that wanted to see the video. So just thank you for coming.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Great. Thank you for that update. Let's see. Danica, are you still on with Lolo?
I am. Yeah, thanks, Kyla. Let's see, January at our meeting, Heidi was busy. She came out and visited us. So I guess it was February, actually, just recently. Talked about the Rural Grants program, so that was nice. We also had a presentation from the folks doing the US 93 study. We had the open houses in January at the Lolo School, but then they came out and actually had a PowerPoint presentation at our meeting. So that was nice that the community could ask them questions directly. And then we also had the developers, well, I should say the consultant representing the developer for the old Lolo School came out and presented kind of some preliminary plans for the subdivision that's going to go in there. Had a huge turnout for that, obviously. That was a big topic of conversation in our community. And I think it went really well. Folks got a lot of their questions answered, and it also spurred some new questions. I think we may need to have Shane come out and kind of give us a refresher on the RSID, because that seemed to be one of the main topics. But I think that's all that we had going on.
Great. Thanks, Danica. Sue, did you have something else you wanted to share?
I did. I'm sorry to interrupt at the end. I'm working on a community outreach type of flyer of sorts to get out on the federal funding issue and uncertainty in notifying, getting as many people as possible to write to the federal Montana delegation in support of the Highway 200 corridor project. That's been a project for like the last 4 years. It is a project that is vital to our community. And so I won't deny how disappointing and rather upsetting it was to find out that that federal money was put on hold and may not be there, because then that puts this project back at ground zero. And so I did want to mention that. And I believe Shane will be coming to our March meeting. And so that there will be a number of topics that he'll be addressing with us too, pertaining to what's going on with Summer Street, and maybe even something along the lines of Highway 200 corridor project. So thank you very much.
Hey, Sue, this is Dave. And just to be clear, the the funding for the Highway 200 corridor project has not been put on hold, but it's certainly in the category of other funding that is potentially in jeopardy or in question. So,
okay.
Yeah, my whole point the other night was, if community members are interested in making sure that that funding remains in place and isn't clawed back, they ought to let their Montana congressional delegation know that it's important. But at this point, we've received no indication that those dollars are on hold, so to speak.
Oh, well, thank you for the clarification on that, Commissioner, because I was told by someone else that it was put on hold. And so thank you for that clarification.
Depending on who it was who relayed that to you, I might be incorrect, and others might have more up-to-date news.
Well, I'm going to go with what you say. So,
well,
I think better news.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say the status of funding can change these days on a minute-to-minute basis. So simply getting on record that you're supportive of infrastructure funding specifically that will benefit your community, I think that's important, because what is today, the policy might be different tomorrow.
Well, and that's kind of what, I'm sorry, Commissioner Slotnick, for interrupting, but that's kind of my fear, is if we do write to all of them and, bring it to their attention to a much greater detail, that's going to get them to pull it for good. So
Sue, I don't think you have a concern there. I want to reiterate agreement with what Dave said about potentially, and I think it will really make a difference if you all reach out. I also would encourage you to acknowledge, in your reaching out, to acknowledge that the presidential administration has asked the Department of Transportation to prioritize infrastructure grants in areas that have high birth rates and high marriage rates, and that may not be your community. Nonetheless, you all need this. And I think being really clear about the economic benefit, the social and cultural benefit, even though the folks who live there are not of the age where they are getting married and having babies as readily as maybe in some other parts of the country.
Okay.
So I would reach out and just be super honest. Say, we don't know, but this is really important to us.
Great. Thank you for your input.
Sure. Thank you.
And in addition to letters, phone calls. I've been told that phone calls are often more effective.
Oh, okay.
Emails don't get read. Letters kind of get round filed, but phone calls.
So is that some of the information, Kyla, that you are putting together for correct phone numbers and addresses to reach these delegates in?
Yeah, so we have a Missoula County Voice page where you can find your legislator and all the information regarding that.
Okay.
So I'll make sure that's shared.
Okay, great. Thank you again.
Okay, looks like we're on to Steely. Tom, are you still on?
Indeed, I am. So, as a couple of the commissioners know, back in November, we had sort of a groundswell of community, almost an uprising about community decay, no animal control, 8 to 10 minute waits on 9/11, and open dealing of drugs near the elementary school. So back in January, when this group came back, and we probably had 70 people, they wouldn't even all fit in the barn. And the council, I mean, we listened to them because these are problems. And, you know, we had Adrienne Beck at our February meeting, and of course, she runs 9/11 and explained it. But to a local who's seeing drug dealing near the school, if you're on hold for 6 or 8 or 10, that's not a good answer. But this group, you know, we told them, look, the council, well, we had people who offered to really spend some time on this, and it's a group of about 10. I think we have 4 retired law enforcement, which is good. They've met a couple of times. And they're going to start with a neighborhood watch organization. And I think found someone in Missoula that can consult on that. And then they have to look at animal control, because the only answer is having live traps up here and putting the poor dogs up in the county office. But if that's the answer, that's the answer. For 9/11, we agreed with Adrienne that we would not hang up, that every call would stay online until it was answered. And then the law enforcement part, I mean, that's the sheriff's department. That's, you know, we'll have to work with them. But in general, it's clear that environmental health oversees community decay and animal control. Emergency services oversees 9/11, and then of course the sheriff's department, law enforcement. So this group, you know, they've already talked to emergency services. Next, there are some obvious decay situations in Sealy. They've been known for years. It turns out environmental health is actually working one of them for the last 2 years, but nothing's happened. So these were the things that I think, looking back, people just kind of gave up. We thought, well, you know, the mill's closed, people are worked up about things. So we have that committee, and we will have them do a regular update at every council meeting. And they are also getting letters from residents that they'll batch together, and then the council will forward those with a cover letter. So that's good. That's been a good thing. And we've had some wild meetings. If you want some pretty lively dialogue, look at our Zoom recording from the February 11th meeting. A couple of other things, one not specifically not county commissioner related, but our clinic services were cut 20% end of last year, all of a sudden. Not a lot of good feelings about partnership in this town. That's run by a separate board. So of course it's their, you know, they have to sort that out. But we do have the chair at a council meeting every month, because we think the whole community needs to stay involved. I mean, obviously one answer is to get a lot of people who don't use it to start using it, because partnerships lost several $1 million over the last 6 or 8 years. So those things they're good, and that people are working on them. It's kind of too bad that we have to deal with it in the first place. The only complaint I have for Missoula County is we've had a person come up twice a month from the treasurer's office to do motor vehicle and property taxes. And like last week, you said, well, January 29th is the last day. A little embarrassing for me as chair of the council when people say, Tom, what's up with this? Well, I didn't know about it. And something that I'd like, maybe you could pass it along to the treasurer's office. It's 6 weeks before April 15th, tax day, that you ended this. And we all know that we use our property taxes when we're filing taxes. So for a person to come up a day or two a month for the next couple of months, that would be a wonderful thing. So that's the report from Sealy. Otherwise, March, we'll probably have environmental, we'll probably have Shannon up here. The sewer district, which we kind of partner with on collaboration and communication, they're doing some community outreaches in March. So, the town is talking more. It's just a lot of things are coming up that surprise people. So yeah, there you have it. That's Sealy Lake. Always grousing about something.
Thanks, Tom. Tyler, I see your hands up.
Yeah, Tom. So I'm Tyler Gernant. I am the treasurer for the county. And I just wanted to clarify, I think the communication that was sent out is that the employee that works up there is retiring. And so the end date is not something that we are imposing. It's a retirement date that she has. And it's not an end date. It's more of a pause date. Ultimately, she processes on average 1.4 renewals an hour while she's open, which equates to about somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 minutes out of every hour she's processing a renewal. And so when we have spoken to folks in Sealy and Condon, it has largely been it's okay that the office is there. It's like kind of nice to have, but it's not super useful that it's only there for 2 days a month. And so we're not really stopping the service. We're exploring ways that we can maybe do better. And part of that is we've had an initial conversation, at least with Shane Stack, about perhaps sharing an employee with Public Works that could be there a little more full-time and do some of the actual transactions that would make it worthwhile. For instance, titling a vehicle we can't do right now because working for 2 days a month doesn't give you enough consistent experience to do that kind of complex transaction. And so I guess I would just say this isn't we're stopping it, it's a pause. And we hope to have, hopefully more services, quite frankly, in the future, but it's more a function of trying to figure it out. The other part of that too is that the state motor vehicle system is transitioning to new software almost at the exact same time. It transitions in March, and so we'll be shut down as an entire office for a couple of days to transition to this new software service. And so it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for us to try and find somebody in Sealy, train them on an old system, and then switch over to a new system. So we are committed to making sure that we're servicing that area, but we need to do it better than the average 10 minutes out of every hour.
Yeah, I mean, I think that misses the point, though, because Montana Veterans Division now is having someone come up once a month for outreach with our older veterans. I mean, we have people who can't drive up here, they use iRide a lot. And, especially with the weather we've had the last couple of weeks, I mean, it's just tough on them. So it's just kind of like, are we too small for the county to care? Like, what's up with that? Because we have 3 PCs at the library in town that are the only public terminals that access the internet. And some of us have talked about, can we expand that? Could we maybe get a grant from the county? But right now, if I'm doing my taxes and it's April and I got a problem with, I can't figure out what needs to go on my tax return, I have to go to Missoula. We do a tech support program once a month here. I've done it for 3 or 4 years. And it's surprising how technologically sort of Stone Age a lot of our residents are. So that's why the in-person thing has been really nice.
Yeah, and I can appreciate that. And I think, like I said, we're hoping to expand services, not necessarily contract them, but it is, it's something that we just don't have the bandwidth to send one of our regular employees up there for that twice a month and drive, which is not something that any of them were hired to do.
Right. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, looks like we just have one more council. West Valley. Regan, you still on?
Yeah, I'm here. So we had quite the meeting last Thursday, but it was mostly I'd say half the meeting was updates from Jerry, just communications and reports and other correspondence. So, updates about like the TIF fund proposal for the Y water system and all that stuff that's happening at the Y. The Grass Valley Industrial Subdivision Improvement Agreement. So we got the rundown on that from Jerry. She also talked about Missoula County Rural Grants Program, just a reminder, as well as the Housing Community Development Survey. Sorry, I cannot talk. It must be close to bedtime. And then we had our normal stuff. I'm just looking at the meeting minutes. And then we had out Ian Varley and Jordan Halla. I don't know if I'm pronouncing her last name right, but they came out and talked about zoning and development. And it was great. They provided an overview of zoning processes, including citizen-initiated zoning. So I believe that's part 1, and then legacy code zoning, so part 2. So it was very interesting. I know I have a lot to learn still about zoning, but it was great, and they did a good job. So yeah, that's the quick rundown of it all.
Thanks so much for that update. That's all of our updates for tonight, unless there's anyone else has any comments that we haven't got through tonight. Sue?
I'm going to ask a really dumb question, but where is the West Valley? What is that area? Where is it?
It's essentially Frenchtown and the outlying
okay.
community. Yeah.
Well, dumb question of the night. Thank you very much.
Regan, did you have something else?
Sorry, I had a question. And Kyla, I can call and talk to you about this tomorrow. But we have an individual who comes to our meetings and is kind of causing some chaos to the point that our school district has actually asked if there's a way we could start recording our meetings to record some of the things that he's saying, because he's saying some pretty slanderous things about the school district, things that are untrue. So I'm just wondering, what are the rules to record at our council meetings?
The biggest one is just letting know everyone in the room and on the audience that you are recording, and then what you're going to do with that recording. If you're going to post it or share it with others, because it is a public meeting and it's just a forum of your public meeting. But certainly happy to talk through that if you guys need support in that realm too.
Okay. Yeah, I might give you a call. It got pretty nasty last Thursday. So.
Oh goodness. Yeah, certainly happy to talk through that.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Of course. And Sue. Go ahead, Sue. Did you have one more question?
Oh, I do. Thank you. What do all of the community councils do as far as, aren't we required to record our meeting? And do other community councils have like a YouTube page, or where do they post their meetings, afterwards, in case somebody wants to go back and watch and listen to the meeting? I mean, is there a uniform spot to do all of that? And because I know with us having to establish our own YouTube page now, that's going to be like $160 a year that will be coming out of our budget. But is there, I guess I'm really interested in what all of the other community councils are doing as far as recording their meetings, and if they're posting those meetings then online anywhere.
So what we've done at Sealy for at least 5 years now, maybe before that, we used Facebook for a couple of years, but that's only one way. So probably since 2000, we use Zoom. So it's two-way. We record it to the cloud, and then the next morning I post it to the Cedar Lake Community Council Facebook page, which is great because that's where I put the agendas. If like a department gets, the sewer district had something they wanted us to put out, a lot of people go there. So Zooms work really well. I mean, I'd be glad to, if you go to Facebook and just look up Cedar Lake Community Council, you will see like more Zooms than you ever want to listen to.
Well, we do Zoom also on, and that's how they've always done it on East Missoula Community Council meetings. But not everybody has access to view the Facebook page. And so I try to keep in mind those that can't, may not have a computer, they may not have access to the internet. I have to remember
Right.
those folks out here that fall into that category. I haven't wanted to really post it to our Facebook page. Just, I don't know why, to be honest with you, but now that we have our own YouTube channel, people are more familiar with a YouTube channel than they are with trying to navigate Zoom. So, but I'm just really interested in what everybody's doing.
One last thing I'll say about Zoom is when you get the link to the recording, if you copy that, you can put it on a regular web page, you can email it to someone. It's very flexible. So they don't need to have a Facebook account. We would never set up a Zoom or a YouTube channel up here because that seems like overkill for us, but Zoom's worked really well. And, but it sounds like you've been doing it. Yeah.
Well, Stephanie just corrected me. Our YouTube channel is free. Our own Zoom account is what's going to cost us $160 a year. So, is that what you're paying? Or do you have somebody that has a business account through Zoom that isn't charging the council for access to that business account?
Yeah, there are a couple of nonprofits up here that have, let's call it full Zoom. So you're not limited to 45 minutes or 40 minutes. And like the sewer board and the community council. So we just share those because none of us are hammering it that hard every day. It's once a month. And then you can take that cloud link and put it wherever you want. Or at least that's what we've been doing.
Well, thank you, Tom.
Sure.
Thank you, Kyla.
Of course. Chris, go ahead.
Oh, so I'm confused. I didn't think we were required to record our meetings. I just heard somebody mention that.
No, that is correct. You are not required to record your meetings. Many councils do or have the capability to. Some councils don't have, quite frankly, the bandwidth or Wi-Fi to do so. Really, the only thing that's required is just that noticing and then, of course, the minutes that get recorded with the clerk and recorder's office.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Okay, everyone, we are just a little bit past time. Anyone else have anything else tonight? Otherwise, we are, I think, ready to call the meeting. Commissioner Barrow?
Sounds great.
Right.
Thank you all. Have a
Yep.
great
Thanks,
evening.
everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.